My favorite things about Impact 100 Seattle, because not only do I get to sit here and do this, but I also got to talk to each of these women and some of their teams in advance to really understand what the organizations are doing and what makes them special. And it's a really, really amazing experience. So I'm going to be working on trying to pull some of that information out. But I think it's important to understand that one of the premises of trust-based philanthropy is that we don't ask for a lot of reporting. We don't ask for the organizations to come and pitch and present. And so this is a very real, open, honest opportunity to speak about their work, their beliefs, their challenges. And we're probably going to hear some tonight because they're real. And it's very carefully positioned, so it's right after, it doesn't seem like it because June feels like a lifetime ago. It's right after our grant process and still well before we really get into the next cycle. So if through the process you have any questions, try to flag someone down, and we'll also be around afterward to address some of this. Okay? So with that said, what I would love to do is start out by having each of you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about the organization that you are here with. Not everyone here knows all of you, so feel free to go back as far as appropriate. Avon, do you want to start first?
Sure, absolutely. Good evening. My name is Avon Curtis. I am the founder and executive director of Arms Around You. Arms Around You is an organization that provides reintegration resources to individuals that are coming home from incarceration and homelessness. We really offer an opportunity to reintegrate in meaningful ways for our community to come back into society.
Hello, my name is Katya Wojcik. I am the co-founder and executive director of Project Be Free. We launched Project Be Free in August of 2020 and headquartered in Renton, Washington, obviously. But we serve the greater King County area, and we're most known for our domestic violence co-responder program, in which we go in alongside of law enforcement to domestic violence DV 911 calls. We are currently partnered with 4 cities of Newcastle, Renton, Kent, and Auburn. And we also do have a DV advocacy program in which we provide wraparound services to individuals and families that are experiencing domestic violence or have a history or have experienced domestic violence, and able to provide stability and also to help recreate a healthier foundation.
Hello everyone, I'm Elisa Philippe from Mujer Al Volante, Women Driving. I'm a program coordinator at Mujer Al Volante, and at Mujer Al Volante we empower immigrant, asylee, refugee, women and single mothers, mainly low-income women, to take the steering wheel of their lives, meaning to get their driver's license and obtain independence and mobility for them to get better job opportunities, to maybe take their kids to school, whatever they want to do, we support them with that goal. And we're currently serving women that speak Spanish, that speak Ukrainian, Dari and Pashto from the Afghan community, as well as Arabic, and we're expanding to a lot more languages.
Excellent, thank you. I want to start actually with a question for you, Elisa, since you have the mic. You are a program manager, as opposed to an executive director here, which means that you sit in a really unique position between kind of the administrative function of the organization, but also program delivery. Can you help us understand what that means for you on a day-to-day basis and how the objectives of Mujer Al Volante come to life through that work?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely as a program coordinator, I get to have very direct contact with the participants and the women we serve. myself and my coworker Leticia, she is sitting over there hiding. Yeah, we work behind the scenes, reaching out to women so they can register for the program. We go through their applications, we talk to them on the phone, asking them what the goals are, and we get to know them very, very closely. And we onboard them so they can start their classes, their theoretical classes, and being a program coordinator as well as a facilitator, because we also facilitate the theoretical part of our program. We get to see our participants grow in confidence. The first day we see them, they are a little scared. They don't know what they got themselves into. They look at the room and they're like, oh my God, what am I doing here? I don't know anyone here. And it's just amazing to be part of the behind the scenes, but also be in contact with these women and connect with them, connect with their stories, see how they grow in only 4-6 weeks, how these women that came to our room, to our classroom, being super scared, very shy, not talking to their classmates, and the last day of class, they are super proud of themselves with their certificate, ready to take the knowledge test. So as a program coordinator and facilitator as well, I get to see that perspective of the warmth the participants bring to the organization.
And I have to say, as a Seattle local, long-term kind of born here, Seattle drivers are their own version of misery. So I cannot even imagine the levels of courage it takes to do some of that. Thank you. Katya, if I could ask you to pass the mic to Avon. Avon, when we were talking earlier, you had some really interesting perspectives on re-entry versus reintegration. Can you talk a little bit about that, what that means, and how you work with the women who are coming into your program?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we find, reentry is a buzzword. You know, people hear reentry and they automatically go into being in prison. And although we do support women that are reintegrating in community, we don't want people to just hear reentry and then they're stuck there. So we bring reintegration to a community because we're healing together. And so reintegration gives more of an empowering statement to women that are coming home. You're not just re-entering, you're reintegrating, because we have to re-identify ourselves. You know, family reunification is important because when we disconnect from family, then we have to build the trust all over again. So that reintegration allows for women that come home, people that come home, to understand that it's more of a warm approach instead of, okay, they dropped the locks now and you're in reentry, go report to your DOC officer, things like that. And that is systematic. You know, when women come home, we want them to really feel and know that we wrap our arms around them while they reintegrate and re-identify into a community. So the reintegration word gives it so much more love.
Well, and I love that the term is more proactive. Re-entry really speaks to leaving something and anchors you more in the past.
Yes.
Whereas that reintegration is so much more proactive. How that has to be different for every individual, right?
Yes.
What it is that they experience. How do you understand what an individual needs and help meet them in those goals and what their future could look like?
Well, they tell us, you know, because what may have been, you know, relevant for me, being a woman of lived experience and reintegrating into community, may not be that same goal for another woman. And so when women come home, we do sit down and build the relationship and ask, what do you want? What do you need? You know, some people will come with, I just need, you know, but it's so much more than that. And that's building the relationship, understanding that all of this that we're doing is a part of building a relationship, right? It's not just, okay, here's this card, go and see Linda, or here's this, bus token, or it's much more than that in reintegration. So we allow women to tell us what their needs are, and then we mentor the woman coming home, because we want to be able to build confidence when we come back home, because we're stigmatized and, oh, she went to prison. So, and a lot of that, it really wears on self-esteem. Self-esteem building is really, really important. So when women come home, when we sit down and build the relationship, a lot of that is having to pull and tug, without being too forceful, but just letting women know that I am because you are. And when women are building a relationship and they feel like you understand, then they start to open up, and it's like, okay, how can we get there? We call it a 90-10 rule, and I say this in a way, I need you to bring your whole mind when I say it. We're not gonna work harder than you. We'll work hard with you and for you, but we are not going to work harder than you, because when you do the work, you really feel, when you get to the success, you really feel the work that you've done, if that makes sense.
It's transformative.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear you framing that way, because it sounds like it's not that dissimilar from what you were just talking about with the evolution in your program, right? Where the women are building confidence, taking control. So it's neat to hear those similarities in such different ways of connecting with the community. Katya. So I intentionally started with you last because we started first last year, and you were our kickoff question. And I'm actually going to start with basically the same question, which is, when we first saw you at Impact 100, I think we were one of the earliest grants that you had applied to. And we've seen tremendous growth in the work that you've done and hearing your story. And when we were talking, just a couple of days ago, you mentioned that you're going into your 5th year, which kind of took me back. And we also talked about some of the challenges that come with that sort of growth. I mean, from where I sit, and I think, Anna and some of the people in this room, like 5 years down, right? Like, that's a thing. Can you talk a little bit about what that journey's been like, and some of what you're looking forward to in kind of this next big leap?
Well, I think one of the things that I and our team often talk about is that there really isn't a blueprint for what's coming or how to get over barriers, how to get through drought, how to get through tough seasons. And I don't know, for some reason I had this notion that somebody could teach me how to do nonprofit work. And they could just mentor me into knowing all the pieces.
When you find that person, will you let us know?
I'm still looking.
Okay, you might be that person for some other people in the room.
Yeah, so I will say there was just this experience that I think as a team we had to really lean on each other and just know that there are seasons that are going to be really tricky. There are going to be times where we're running around looking for a check, or there are times that, sleepless nights. I mean, I often am trying to advocate for our team to have self-care, and sometimes I'm the biggest culprit of not. But it is, I will say, it's really challenging being a part of a nonprofit that's 24/7. We oftentimes don't get that, I don't know if I want to call it luxury, but we don't have that experience that we can just turn off our phones or not respond. So in that experience as an organization, I think we're learning to adapt and really advocating for, if we are to come into the next year, we're needing to know our worth. And I think that's the thing that
I'm really, as a leader, wanting to not only work on within myself, but for us and advocating for our team is that we need to speak and we need to advocate, and we at times have to be forceful about the experience, letting organizations and sometimes funders know that they're causing us harm when they are signing up for an experience because they want to check a box and say, we're funding BIPOC organizations, but in the process, on the backhand side, also causing us harm. So I guess one of the things that I wished I would have known is that, unfortunately, sometimes people want to say yes to things that they're not prepared to do. And they've committed to something that they cannot deliver on. And I wish there was a space that we could have some of those really transparent conversations, which I think is important for funders to be open to such an experience. Sorry, I got lost in the weeds there. I will say, during this experience of growth, I will say one of the things that's really exciting for us, even in sometimes those tricky seasons, is that we have a service, and I think each of our team members knows this, that we have a service that is no longer this proof of concept, like let us show you, please believe us, we will make good on this promise, so to say. And we're coming into a season that we have partners now, right? Is this experience is that when we are in the space is that it's not just Joelle and I as leaders telling and talking to officers about, hey, our services are really great and this is how we can help support your team and this is how we can also not only care for our communities, but we can also help with law enforcement, mental health. It's actually this experience that now we come into the fold and we have new organizations in other city law enforcement that is looking at us, and we have this experience of other law enforcement that are part of our partnership that are saying, wait, before you approach them, let us tell you about how it's going in our cities and how it's impacting our officers and our community members. And before you even mention or talk to them, I think one of the most impacting things that I heard recently, sorry, it's been an emotional day. One of the most impactful things that one of our partnership sergeants said was, before anyone comes your way, tell them they are to come with a blank check. And I feel like that really speaks to the services that we provide. So I will say, fast forward, being in this space that we're no longer proving our worth, it's this experience that now our allies can say, yes, you need to do this, and this is how it's going to show you, and we can be silent and let others lead that experience. So that's really what's exciting. One of the things that is also really exciting is, I will say, a couple of years ago we tried to go for funding through WASPEC. WASPEC is the Washington Association of Sheriff and Policing of all of Washington. And unfortunately, in that time, they denied our funding, which was such a learning experience for us. Obviously, all denials are sad. But what I learned in that experience and what we talked about as a team is that our concept was too early for its time. And people couldn't really absorb what it meant. And I will say, just last week, one of our chiefs that's a huge supporter of us is going to be the president of the organization. And he already said, all right, next spring we have the WASPEC conference, and I want you guys to present. So we, as a team, knows what that means. And I mean, I already envision us all over Washington. I know that that'll be an experience.
put it mildly.
Hopefully not the big crazy one. But I think those are the things that are really exciting. So I think going into this next year is all about pacing ourselves, commitment to our team and ourselves, about worth and prioritizing ourselves, and also allowing those that are believers in our program to be the ones that speak the message.
I love it. I come from the world of retail and technology, so a very different world. And we have this idea, particularly in the startup space of, I'm gonna get kind of geeky, product market fit, right? When you have a product that people want, you know, and it's hard to define, but it's when things get easier. I would argue in the stories that you've told, I think some of it gets harder, but you are really starting to see and get validation that I think so many of us would love in our professional and or personal lives. And it's really amazing to see something go from pilot, right, through these steps. And we'll talk a little bit later about some of the other programs that you're piloting. But one of the themes that I'm hearing more this year than I've heard in the past is really the role of trust, right? And I mean, it's important to us, trust-based philanthropy, and it's right there in what we do. But I'd like to double down on that just a little bit, because I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you how you trust your funders after some of what you've probably seen. But I do want to talk, Elisa, kind of send it back to you. You know, you are bringing on individuals from other cultures, other countries than what you were originally founded on. You don't necessarily share some of the same experiences, like what Avon was talking about, right? The same lived experience, but there's similarities. How do you think about building trust and building relationships with these broader communities?
Yeah, I think there's like two different levels to that. I would say the first level would be like the community. So the way we've been approaching the different communities from different cultures is we try to identify a community leader. Let's say maybe the Ukrainian Community Center will connect us to someone they know that will help us spread the word about our program, and they know women that need the program, right? So when we connect to these community leaders, we explain the whole program to them. We explain why it is important, because there's still a lot of people that do not understand, well, why don't women just drive? Like, just get your driver's license. And for a lot of the women that we serve, it goes beyond just a driver's license. There's a lot behind it, and we explain that to them. We tell them our success stories. If we can, maybe we bring one of our participants that already got their driver's license so they can meet firsthand the people we serve. And not only that, but we also kind of like, we ask for permission, kind of as a sign of respect, saying we are aware of our differences, but we want to be able to serve more women, regardless of our culture or our language. And once we get their, let's call it their approval, and they tell us that they're gonna support us, spread the word, and that we're gonna partner to get this program going, then we start the program. No? So I would say that's the first level of how we build the trust with our other communities. We try to explain to them what we do, how we see it, and at the end of the day, we realize that it doesn't matter where we come from, it doesn't matter what language we speak, we have the same needs. And something we were talking about was the connection woman to woman. There's something that only we as women feel and know. Even if we don't speak the same language, we understand ourselves just with the way we see ourselves. Just a small look, and we know how we feel sometimes, right? And this is how I feel I personally connect to the women that speak other languages, like Arabic or Ukrainian or Russian. I don't think I will ever be able to learn those languages or understand them. But when I have women in front of me with the same needs that I once had, because I was also that immigrant looking for help to get my driver's license, we realize we are here for the same thing. And I understand your language, and I might not understand your culture, but I respect it, and I want you to know that I am here to support you, but you're also supporting me, because sometimes I finish class, and they're like, thank you so much, teacher, thank you so much, sister, and I'm like, no, thank you for trusting us and coming here, allowing us to be part of your story. And yeah, I think what I wanted to say is that I feel like I have a connection with women from other communities in that way, that sometimes when they are in class and they don't understand something, I don't understand what they're saying either, but I can see their eyes, I see their faces, I can read their nonverbal language.
You see when they get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, yeah. And I think that's something very human. And that's something I love about our job, that it's something very human. Empathy knows no barriers. Empathy knows no languages. And that's how I feel we all, in Mujer Al Volante, that's how I feel we all connect to the women we serve, regardless of their culture or language.
I want to point out, and some of you know that I have a huge issue with the word just. And both Avon and Elisa, you've both used it in the context. That's why I have that issue. Because it's about somebody saying, oh, well, why don't you just drive? Or why don't you just do this, right? It's these things that are making these things that are so hard seem so easily. By using that word, you're making something smaller than it really is. And so by addressing that, by taking this thing that's actually so big and so challenging and putting supports behind it, creates real value, right? In a way that we may not always appreciate. And I love that. And so now, every time you guys hear the word just, and let me tell you, and I know there's kids in the room, kids use it a lot. I want to switch gears just a little bit. Avon, when you and I had our conversation, unfortunately, I have forgotten the gal who was on the phone with us, her name, and I'm embarrassed. But it's very clear you are an incredibly strong leader who has surrounded yourself with really good managers, right? Understanding the balance of who is doing what, where, when. I know that's something a lot of us struggle with, and I'm curious about how, as you've been growing your organization, you've approached that and thought about that. Right? How do you build your team around you? Sorry, not an easy, no softball here.
So team building is definitely, you really wanna make sure that we're all going in the same direction. Specifically, because we're dealing with a community, right? And if we're all going in different directions, then we start to mission creep, and we start to do other things, right? That are outside of what the assignment is. And so, I'm a really humorous person, so I really love laughter. I might say something totally off the Richter scale, and if you get it, and it just might be just, out there in the clouds, as they call it, and a lot of the team members that we have, they're used to me, and they're used to the humor. However, I'm really serious about the assignment I've been given. And so when building the relationship with the team, just making sure that we're going in the same direction and we have the same purpose You don't have to be me. I don't, because I'm my own individual, right? And I don't say that in a silo content, but we are all made in the likeness, but we're all different, and so in that managing, which I don't like that word, but I'll go for it, and I don't say, that I don't like the managing, but the managing side of things can be a little challenging. And so as a leader, I just let our team be who they are. And as long as we're going in the same direction, we're good. Just stay the course, don't lose your focus, and know your why. But not just the why, but the why not. Why not us? And we're good.
Well, and I love that it honors the individuality, right? And which I would think, empower your community to see something in them and allow people to bring their best selves to what it is that they're doing. Yeah, I love it. Katya, sorry, I'm gonna make you guys work your arms with the mics. You've had a lot of really interesting things going on. What are you looking forward to most next year in the coming year?
I think as a whole, our team is really excited. These next coming couple of weeks, we're actually about to launch, well, I would say more expand a program. So we've been really, I will say, lucky and blessed that we've built really great relationships at the prosecutor's office. That always sounds really weird. Sounds really official. It's not. They're really great kind of people. But what has been really exciting is that 2 months ago, as a team, we had gone after a gun violence reduction grant at Commerce, and we ended up not getting it. And the missing piece there for the funder was that they couldn't draw the connection between why gun violence reduction should go to a DV organization. I felt like it was such a miss.
I was gonna tell you, so far this is not feeling like a looking forward story.
I know.
I just want to call it out.
I made my phone calls to the prosecutor's office because they wrote letters of support for us. For those that don't know, domestic violence is one of the top reasons people get killed by a gun. That's why I was so surprised that it was not us. Anyways, we're moving forward. What resulted out of that experience was all of my ranting and raving at the prosecutor's office. They came back a couple weeks later and they said, hey, so we have this funding source that was given to another organization, and unfortunately they're probably at capacity. They don't have space for it anymore. But this funding opportunity essentially is going to allow you to prove the thing that you were told no. So what we're really excited for as a team is that we are going to expand our youth program, and we are also launching our Project Be Fit program, and it is going to be a pilot in the city of Kent, and we're really excited to make that connection for funders of we need to do prevention with our youth unless they end up in these really violent situations. And the outputs that we're usually funding, like gang violence and gun violence and substance abuse and mental health, are usually born in a household.
Are you trying to put yourselves out of a job?
God, I hope not.
No. Part of it?
So that's really what we're excited about as a team, is being able to show funders that experience. I've always been really leery of data in the past, and that's really the thing that gave us the opportunity to get this funding source, is that all of our funders that do fund us right now ranted and raved about our data. So I think that's the thing that we're really excited about, is being able to connect the dots for people and have the opportunity to come into a new space and expand, and hopefully The other thing that is really exciting is that, so last year we served a total of 629 domestic violence calls. 2 months ago, this year, we surpassed 1,000 households we served. And the middle of last week, we doubled last year's numbers.
Wow.
So,
And it's September.
yes,
Well,
yes.
and it was, wow, yeah.
So this is not to say that domestic violence is on the rise, but it's allowing our organization the opportunity to say our mission and our goal of rerouting police calls to us is working, because what we're being told by our partner police departments is their DV numbers are going down, but ours are going up. And that's because often a lot of those calls that officers are going out that are things like verbal disputes are rerouting to us, so that they don't have to go back and then make an arrest. And that's always been the goal, is that we want to be more so on the prevention side rather than the reaction.
So I happen to be a real data person, so it kind of struck me for just a minute there, but you did have a strong understanding of the numbers, and it sounds like those are the numbers that you are measuring your impact along. I'm curious, and this is a little bit off the cuff, if you kind of directed both at Elisa and Yvonne, if you could define your success, how would you want to be measured? Be it quantitative or qualitative? Sorry, real softball question there, right? But it gets back to what motivates you, and when you see your community responding and you see the impact, what does that look like?
Well, for me, and for our organization, it's all about quality. You know, we've already been a number. You know, nobody wants to be a number anymore. You know, give you your number back. You know, you can have that number back.
I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, you know, and so with that, when you're given a quality of life, then you feel more driven in the purpose. So quality, it's always a quality for me, yes.
How do you understand quality? Is it through the relationship? Is it kind of something that you know in your bones? Is it intangible?
I mean, you know, when you've lived it, you know, you can taste it, you know, and when people come through the door, you can tell when they're coming for just a thing. There's that word, when they're coming for something, right? And that's okay. That's okay. The door's open. The quality starts happening after you building the relationship. And you see that they're calling you back. They're calling you again. They're showing up. And they're showing out.
It's going back to trust, right?
It's all a trust build. I don't know you. You know, I don't know you. I do know that you have something for me. So the intention when people walk through the door may be one thing, but when you come to Arms Around You, it just changes the narrative, because now I'm talking to somebody that looks like me, and not just in color, but that looks like me. So that's quality.
Excellent. Elisa, do you have a perspective?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely want to measure our success qualitative, because the way I see it is there's no way a story of individual transformation can be turned into just a number. You just can't. There's so much behind the effort someone put into, let's say, getting their driver's license or whatever the goal was, just for it to become, oh, we got another driver's license this month. Obviously, we have to convert those success stories into numbers for the sake of reports, right? But the way I see it is, how are you going to it just doesn't translate. There's so much behind it, and if I'm being completely honest, this is something I realized only a couple of months ago while our operations manager was on PTO, or I don't remember what was the exact situation, and I had the chance to write a report for the first time. And I was seeing all these numbers, and I was like, oh my God, like, where are the stories? All the women that have come to us, and they have told us their whole life stories, their challenges, how they got to the US. They left everything behind in their countries. And the way we are giving the results is a number. I felt like I was betraying them. I wasn't being able to tell their stories to these people we were reporting to, if that makes sense. So it's definitely, in my opinion, the way we want to measure our success in a qualitative way. Yes, we have to have numbers and statistics and all these fancy graphs and everything, but it just doesn't compare to listening to the success stories of our participants and knowing what was behind all that story. It just gives you the chills when you listen to them.
I have to say, looking back on the conversation from last year when Jacqueline was here, even then the numbers that she talked about were still, because I pressed her, were still really shocking. Like how many, I think at one point she said she had 100 people in her apartment, and she had not yet learned how to drive herself, right? So it's kind of like, like I don't even have space for that. And I know the stories that Katya, what you were describing, the people who are coming around you and surrounding you kind of speaks to the same thing, right? That's where that growth comes from. So I think, in a data-rich world where we're constantly being pitched another AI tool or another thing that can quantify it, I think it's really amazing to kind of ground within these sorts of stories and the people who are really behind them. We're running out, we're down to our last few minutes. So what I would love to do is ask each of you to spend a moment sharing something with this group here tonight. What would you have them, if there was one thing that they could take away, what would you want that to be? It could be a support or something that you're interested in or could need, or it could be a thought that you simply want to share. It's kind of that final nugget. And I'll leave it to you all on who wants to go first. Do you guys think Avon has one? Look at her.
My goodness. Don't consider this work. And I say that because it's like, oh, I gotta get up and go to work. So the thought is that at what we're doing, it's an assignment. It's something that we are supposed to be doing. It's not all of a sudden we're deciding to do this, but it's something that the universe has us doing together collectively. It's not, we didn't get here by accident. We're here because we're supposed to be here. And so it's not a job or it's not work that we're doing for the love that we're giving to our community, but we're assigned to do it.
I think what I'm going to say is related to what I just said. And it is something I actually learned, again, in the past couple of months. If anyone here works also for another nonprofit or have ever worked at one, or whatever it is that you guys do, you ladies do, don't ever forget about the connection with the people we serve, because that's the heart of our work. it's easy as our organizations grow to get a little lost in the numbers. 20 driver's license this month. Yes, maybe. But 100 women that were impacted by our program. And they got out of their comfort zone. So it's not always about the numbers, it's about the connections we create, the impact we make in each one of the people we serve. So I think that's something I would want you ladies to take away from what I was able to share as a program coordinator is the connection with the people we serve is essential. It's why we started. As you mentioned, I am because you are, and that's it. Let's just never forget our human side, our empathy, and it's great that our organizations can grow, but let's always look back at why we started and keep that always in mind and our hearts. I don't want to sound too cheesy, but that's how I see it.
Oh gosh, I think mine's a challenge. So my challenge essentially is to create this space where we as community members can be curious about funding. Not even just here, but be curious about who our cities are funding, be curious about who our counties are funding. And my challenge is that when you see certain organizations that are being funded, to ask yourself a question. Why are they being funded? Are they accountable to our communities? Have I tried talking to them myself? Do they respond? Because more likely is that sometimes organizations do get funded because of history or because they are known, but not because of the quality of work that they are doing today. So my challenge would be to people not only to advocate for here in this space, but also out in our cities. And definitely audit those organizations that are being funded. Now, I'm not saying numbers-wise, but I'm saying like one of the things our team often encounters is that sadly organizations are funded that are not answering a phone. Now, we don't get that opportunity to say no to people. And I think it is important for us as community members to be aware of that.
I want to thank each of you for your conversation and your perspective and your space. Before I turn this over to Mary, I just want to embarrass Elisa for just a minute and tell you all that today is her birthday. So just doubling down on how grateful we are for your time here. And we have not enough for everybody, but we do have a small cake in the back for those who want to stick around. But we're not going to say because I have a mic and this would get really bad really fast, and I would like for you all to stay and mingle for at least a bit.
Thank you.
I'm Mary Lloyd, and I am the chair of the Nonprofit Relations Committee. I get the pleasure and the honor to check in with these grantee partners and be their point person. And then, in the bestest of ways that we feel, through trust and listening and hopefully encouraging them to come as they are, and we see what we can do together, what we can learn from each other. And there's so much integrity on this stage. There is so much authenticity. Those are these two values, and yet listening to all of you, we just had an impact board retreat over the weekend, and we were going around and around about our values and where we are in our development and our growth. And impact is also a nonprofit that puts its time and energy into all of you year after year, so that we make the kinds of connections that those of us that have chosen to be on the leadership team can engage in with you. So thank you. And I do, it is about all of these things. And I've been doing qualitative analysis almost my whole life, and hoping to make data a little more visual, data a little bit more artistic and pretty. And it is these stories. This is what we do. So thank you all for coming. There are some things on your table. Project Be Free is hosting their first gala, which is and Impact 100 has sponsored a table. And so if you are a member of Impact 100 and want to attend and go to this fabulous, we saw pictures of the inn where it's going to be, and you can go to our website. You can also come and find me or one of the people on the leadership team, and we'll let you know. But we'd love to make that opportunity available to some of our members. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We do have some bombing sandwiches and fruit and wine, and there'll be birthday cake, and no singing by me either. And just thank you. Thank you to the organizations that brought staff and support. We love